live. I'm reading Travels with My Aunt. It's a book by Greene. It was published in 1969, and it is about Henry, a retired bank manager, who met his Aunt Augusta for the first time at his mother's funeral. And she's a rather surprising character. She's in her mid-70s, and he's been to see her. She lives above a pub, and she wants to go on a trip with him. Well, actually she wants to go to Istanbul, but Henry suggested, why don't they go to Brighton for the day? 5th chapter, I am. Brighton was the first real journey I undertook in my aunt's company, and proved a bizarre foretaste of much that was to follow. We arrived in the early evening, for we had decided to spend the night. I was surprised by the smallness of her luggage, which consisted only of a little white leather cosmetics case, which she called her Berzonville. I find it difficult myself to go away for a night without a rather heavy suitcase, for I'm uneasy if I have not at least one change of suit, and that entails also a change of shoes, a change of shirt, a change of underclothes, and of socks are almost as essential to me, and taking into consideration the vagaries of the English climate, I like to take some woolens just in case. My aunt looked askance at my suitcase and said, "We must take a cab." I had hoped we could walk. I had booked our rooms at the Royal Albion because my aunt wished to be near the Palace Pier and the Old Stein. She told me, incorrectly, I think, that this was named after the wicked Marquis of Vanity Fair. I like to be at the centre of all the devilry, she said, with the buses going off to all those places. She spoke as though their destinations were Sodom and Gomorrah, rather than Lewes and Patcham and Littlehampton and Shoreham. Apparently, she had come first to Brighton when she was quite a young woman, full of expectations, which I'm afraid were partly fulfilled. I thought I would have a bath and a glass of sherry, a quiet dinner in the grill, and an early bedtime, so that we would both be rested for a strenuous morning on the front and in the lanes, but my aunt disagreed. "We don't want dinner for another 2 hours," she said, "and first I want you to meet Hattie, if Hattie's still alive." "Who is Hattie?" "We worked together once with a gentleman called Mr. Curran." "How long ago was that?" 40 years or more." "Then it seems unlikely." "I'm here," Aunt Augusta said firmly, "and I got a card from her the Christmas before last." It was a grey-laden evening with an east wind blowing on our backs from Camp Town. The sea was rising, and the pebbles turned and ground under the receding waves. Ex-President Nkumra looked out at us from the window of the waxworks, wearing a grey suit with a Chinese collar. My aunt paused and regarded him. I thought a little sadly. "I wonder where Wordsworth is now," she said. "I expect you'll hear from him soon." "I very much doubt it," she said. "My dear Henry," she added, "at my age, one has ceased to expect a relationship to last. Think how complicated life would be if I had kept in touch with all the men I have known intimately. Some died, some I left, a few have left me. If they were all with me now, we would have to take over a whole wing of the Royal Albion. I was very fond of Wordsworth while he lasted, but my emotions are not as strong as they used to be. I can support his absence, though I may regret him for a while tonight. His knackers were superb. The wind took my hat and tossed it against the lamppost. I was too surprised by her vulgarity to catch it, and my aunt laughed like a young woman. I returned, brushing it down, but Aunt Augusta still lingered at the waxworks. It's a kind of immortality, she said. What is? I don't mean the waxworks here in Brighton. They are rather a job lot. But in Madame Tussauds, with Crippen and the Queen. I'd rather have my portrait painted. But you can't see all around the portrait. And at Tussauds, they take some of your clothes to dress you in. Or so I've read. There's a blue dress of mine I could easily spare. Oh well, she said with a sigh. It's unlikely I'll ever be famous like that. Idle dreams. She walked on. I thought a little cast down. Criminals, she said, and queens and politicians. Love is not highly regarded, except for near Greene and the brides in the bath. We came to the saloon doors of the Star and Garter, and my aunt suggested that we take a drink. The walls were covered with inscriptions of a philosophic character. Life is a one-way street and there's no coming back. Marriage is a great institution for those who like institutions. You will never persuade a mouse that a black cat is lucky. There were old programs too and photographs. I ordered a sherry and my aunt said she would like a port and brandy. When I turned round from the bar, I saw her examining a yellow photograph. There was an elephant and two performing dogs drawn up in front of the palace pier behind a stout man in a tailcoat, wearing a top hat and a watch chain, and a shapely young woman in tights stood beside him, carrying a carriage whip. There's Koran, my aunt said. That's how it all began. She pointed at the young woman. And there's Hattie. Those were the days. Surely you never worked in a circus, Aunt Augusta. Oh no, but I happened to be there when the elephant trod on Koran's toe, and we became very close friends. Poor man, he had to go to hospital, and when he came out, the circus had gone on without him, to Weymouth. Hattie too, though she came back later when we were established. Established as what? I'll tell you one day, but now we have to find Hattie. She drained her port and brandy, and out we went into the cold blow of the wind. Just opposite was a stationer's, which sold comic postcards, and she stopped there to inquire. The metal stands for the cards rattled and strained and turned like a windmill. I noticed a card with a bottle of Guinness on it, and a fat woman in a snorkel floating face down. The legend read, "Bottoms up." I was looking at another of a man in hospital saying to a surgeon, "But I said circumcision, doctor," when my aunt came out. "It's just here," she said. I knew I wasn't far wrong. And in the window of the very next house, a card in front of some net curtains read, "Hattie's Teapot, by appointment only." There were photographs by the door of Marilyn Monroe and Frank Sinatra and the Duke of Edinburgh, which seems to have been signed for by their subjects, although it seemed unlikely in the case of the Duke. We rang the bell and an old lady answered it. She was wearing a black evening dress and a lot of jet objects dangled when she moved. "You're too late," she said sharply. "Hattie," said my aunt. "I close at 6:30 sharp, except by special appointment." "Hattie, it's Augusta." "Augusta?" "Hattie, you haven't changed a bit." But remembering the young girl in tights carrying the whip and looking sideways at Koran, I thought there had been greater changes than my aunt made out. This is my nephew Henry, Hattie. You remember about him?" They exchanged a look, which I found disturbing. Why should I have been discussed all those years ago? Had she let Hattie into the secret of my birth? "Come on in, the two of you. I was just going to have a cup of tea. An unprofessional cup of tea," Hattie added and giggled. "In here?" my aunt asked, opening a door. "No, dear, that's the waiting room. I just had time to see an engraving by Alma Tadema of of a lot of tall naked ladies in a Roman bathhouse. Here, my den, dear. Here's my den, dear, Hattie said, opening another door. It was a small, overcrowded room, and everything seemed to be covered with fringed mauve shawls. The table, the backs of chairs, the mantel. There was even a shawl dangling from a studio portrait of a stout man whom I recognized as Mr. Koran. The revered, Aunt Augusta said, looking at it. The revered, Hattie repeated, and then they both laughed at some secret joke of their own. The Rev, for short, Aunt Augusta said, but that, of course, was only a coincidence. You remember how we explained it to the police? They still got a photo of him. Hattie stuck up in the Star and Garter. I haven't been there for years, Hattie said. I'm off the hard liquor. You are there, and the elephants too, said Augusta. Can you remember the elephant's name? Hattie was putting out 2 more cups from a china cabinet. There was a fringed shawl over that too. She said, it wasn't a common name like Jumbo, something classical. One forgets things, Augusta, at our age. Was it Caesar? No, it wasn't Caesar. Do you take sugar, Mr. Call him Henry, please, Hattie. 1 lump, I said. Oh dear, I had such a good memory once. The water's boiling, dear. The kettle was on a spirit ring close to a big brown teapot. She began to pour out. Oh, I forgot the strainer, she said. Never mind, Hattie. It's because of my clients. I never strain theirs, so I forget when I'm all alone. There was a plate of ginger snaps, and I accepted one for politeness. From the old Stein, Aunt Augusta told me. You old bunny shoppy. You don't get ginger snaps like that anywhere else in the world. And now they have turned it into a betting shop, Hattie said. Pluto, dear, was it Pluto? No, I'm sure it wasn't Pluto. I think it began with a T. I can't think of anything classical beginning with a T. There was a point to his name. There certainly was. Historical. Yes. You remember the dogs, dear? They are in the photo too. It was them gave Koran the idea. The revered, Auntie Augusta repeated again, and they laughed in unison at their private memory. I felt very much alone, so I took another ginger snap. The boy has a sweet tooth, Auntie Hattie remarked. To think that little shop in the old Stein survived 2 great wars. We've survived, Hattie replied, but they aren't turning us into betting shops. Oh, it will need an atom bomb to destroy us, Auntie Augusta said. I thought it was a time to speak. The situation in the Middle East is pretty serious, I said, judging from today's Guardian. You can never tell, Hattie said, and they were both, for a while, buried in thought. Then my aunt picked out a tea leaf, put it on the back of her hand, and slapped it with the other. It clung obstinately to a vein which was surrounded by what my mother used to call grave marks. Can't get rid of the fellows, Aunt Augusta said. I hope he is tall and handsome. That isn't a stranger, Hattie corrected her. That's the thought of a departed you can't get out of your mind. Living or dead? It could be either. How stiff does he feel? He's living I suppose. If he's living, I suppose it could be poor Wordsworth. Wordsworth is dead, dear, Hattie said. A very long time ago. No, my Wordsworth. It's stiff as wood. I wonder who a dead one could be. Poor Koran, perhaps. I have thought a lot about him since I came to Brighton. Would you like me to do a professional cup, dear, for you and your friend? Nephew, Aunt Augusta corrected Hattie in her turn. It would be fun, dear. I'll make another pot. The leaves have to be fresh, and I use Lapsang Souchon professionally, though I drink Ceylon. Lapsang gives big leaves and good results. When she came back after washing the pot and our cups, my aunt said, you must let us pay. I wouldn't dream of it, dear. Not after all we've been through together. With the Reverend, they giggled again. Hattie poured in the boiling water. She said, I don't let the pot draw. The leaves spread better fresh. She filled our cups. Now toss the tea away, dear, in this basin. I've got it, my aunt said. Hannibal. Who's Hannibal? The elephant that trod on Koan's toe. I do believe you're right, dear. I was watching the tea and it came to me suddenly, in a flash. I often notice that with the leaves, things come back. You are watching the leaves and things come back. I suppose Hannibal is dead too. You can't tell, dear, with elephants. She picked up my aunt's cup and studied it closely. It's interesting, she said, very interesting. Bad or good? A bit of both. Just tell me the good. You're going to do a lot of travelling with another person. You're going to cross the ocean. You're going to have many adventures with men. That the leaves don't say, dear, but knowing you, as I do, it wouldn't surprise me. You will be in danger of your life and liberty on more than one occasion. But I'll come through. I see a knife, or it might be a syringe, or it could be something else. Hattie, you know what I mean. There is some mystery in your life. That's nothing new. I see a lot of confusion, a lot of running about this way and that. I'm sorry, Augusta, but I can't see any peace up close. There's a cross. Perhaps you find religion. Or it could be a double cross. I've always been interested in religion, my aunt said, ever since Quran. Or it could be a bird, of course, a vulture perhaps. Keep away from deserts. Hattie gave a laugh. Things don't come to me so casually, so easily as they once did. I exhaust myself with strangers. But you'll take one look at Henry's cup too, dear, won't you? Just one look. She poured my tea away and looked in the cup. Men are difficult, she said. They have so many occupations beyond a woman's knowledge, and that affects the interpretation. I had a client once who said he was a bevel edger. I don't know what he meant. Are you an undertaker? No. There's something that looks like an urn. Do you see it there on the left of the handle? That's the recent past. It must be an urn, I said, looking. You will do a lot of travelling. That's not very likely. I've always been rather stay at home. It's quite an adventure for me coming as far as Brighton. It's in the future you're going to travel across the ocean with a lady friend. Perhaps he's coming with me, Aunt Augusta said. It's possible. The leaves don't lie. There's a round thing like a target. There's a mystery in your life too. I've only just discovered that, I said. I see a lot of confusion too, and running around, just like in Augusta's cup. That's most unlikely, I said. I lead a very regular life. A game of bridge once a week at the Conservative Club, and my garden, and of course my dahlias. The target might be a flower, Hattie admitted. Forgive me, I'm tired. I'm afraid it was not a very good reading. It was most interesting, I told her for politeness' sake. But, of course, I'm no believer. Have another ginger snap, Hattie said. So that was the end of this chapter 5. And I shall read chapter 6 soon. Today is the 1st of December.